Hi, this is Emma and Kai with the National Council of Firefighter Credit Unions, ncofcu.org, and we are going to discuss the story behind the numbers. If you've ever been in a board meeting looking down at a balance sheet and thinking, I get that this matters, but what am I supposed to do with it? You're in good company. Financial statements can feel like a wall of numbers until you learn what questions those numbers are trying to answer. Today, we're going to translate the key statements credit union leaders rely on, not from an accountant's point of view, but from a strategy and decision-making perspective. This episode draws from ideas shared at the 2025 NCOFCU conference in Key West, where Michael Richards, a CPA with Richards & Associates, walked through what really matters when you're monitoring financial health.
Let's start with a balance sheet, because the balance sheet is more than a snapshot. It's a story. It tells you where the credit union is today, but it also hints at the choices that got you here and the pressures that are building for tomorrow. One of the first places that story shows up is membership growth. Membership growth rarely happens by luck. Over time, it reflects decisions about who you're trying to serve and how you're showing up for them. Think about the big levers leadership touches: service levels, branch and digital delivery channels, pricing, and how broad your product set is. When membership is growing and retention looks solid, it's often a sign that your strategy is connecting with people in the real world. And when it's not, the balance sheet is quietly telling you that the market isn't responding the way you hoped.
From there, the story moves into asset growth. Assets can rise because the environment is pushing them up, or because your operation is pulling them up, and you need to know the difference. Externally, the economy matters, and so does the size and makeup of your field of membership. Internally, asset growth reflects how members experience your service, whether your products fit their needs, and how your pricing philosophy compares to competitors. Strong growth can be a great sign, but only if it's paired with risk management that keeps the institution stable while it expands.
Now let's talk about share growth, because this is where leaders sometimes get surprised. It's easy to assume that rapid deposit growth is automatically good news, but share growth can cut both ways. If shares are coming in very fast, it may point to pricing issues, and it can introduce more volatility into the balance sheet. And here's the bigger concern. If loans and income don't grow along with those shares, your net worth ratio can get squeezed. In other words, what looks like momentum can turn into pressure if it's not sustainable.
Loan growth is another balance sheet line that reveals a lot more than more loans or fewer loans. It reflects the economy, member demographics, and your credit union's appetite for risk. But it also reflects how competitive you are day to day, your marketing, your product design, your sales culture, and the ways members can access borrowing. At the center of it, loan growth is about confidence. It's about whether members feel ready to borrow and whether they trust you as their lender.
A helpful relationship metric here is the loan-to-share ratio. This ratio gives you a quick read on how effectively deposits are being converted into earning assets. Many credit unions naturally focus on growing loans and only get more serious about shares when liquidity gets tight. Part of that is because loan growth is often driven by operational choices and strategic execution, while deposit growth is more closely tied to the demographics and behaviors of your membership. Generally speaking, a higher loan-to-share ratio can signal stronger profitability, assuming you're not taking on risk you can't manage.
And that brings us to asset quality, because this is often where risk shows up first. Delinquency ratios and net charge-offs aren't just accounting outcomes. They're feedback on underwriting discipline, portfolio mix, and collections effectiveness. If those trends run hotter than peers or national benchmarks, it can be an early warning sign. Sometimes it's a signal that underwriting standards have loosened too far. Other times it reflects real financial stress in your member base. Either way, leaders should treat these indicators as early alerts, not as after-the-fact explanations. Then there's net worth, your capital cushion. Net worth absorbs volatility in earnings, supports growth, and helps protect the institution during downturns. The key idea is alignment. As your assets grow and as your risk profile changes, capital growth needs to keep pace. Strong capital gives you options and flexibility. Weak capital narrows your choices and can force the institution into reactive decisions.
Once you've read the balance sheet story, the next question is, how well is the operation being run? That's where the income statement comes in. If the balance sheet tells you where you are, the income statement explains how you perform getting there. A good place to start is net interest margin, because it's the engine room for many credit unions.
Net interest margin is basically about the spread, and it reflects how well lending, investment decisions, and liquidity management are working together. Credit unions with strong pricing discipline and effective risk-based lending tend to have more room to maneuver. On the other hand, institutions facing higher operating costs or higher loan losses often need a stronger margin just to stay competitive. And it's worth saying plainly, there isn't one right net interest margin for everyone. The right margin is the one that matches your strategy, your cost structure, and your risk reality.
Next is non-interest income, which tells you how much revenue is coming from sources other than loans and investments, things like fees and interchange income. What makes this tricky is that asset growth can distort the ratio. Rapid asset growth can make the percentage look lower even if non-interest income is rising. Slow growth can make the ratio look better than it really is. That's why trends matter more than a single point in time. You're looking for direction, consistency, and whether the mix is changing in a way that supports the model.
Operating expenses are another core part of the income statement, and they speak to both efficiency and deliberate choices. Expanding services and delivery options costs money, but those expenses may be part of how you create value and loyalty for members. Comparing expenses to assets helps you understand scale and whether you're gaining efficiency as you grow. And then you have the efficiency ratio, which boils it down to a simple question: how much does it cost to generate $1 of income? Lower is generally better, but you always need context, especially when interest rates shift and income levels move with them.
Finally, return on assets, or ROA. ROA helps you see how effectively the credit union is using its assets to produce income. But ROA should never be read in isolation, because credit unions are purpose-driven institutions. Sometimes a lower ROA is the result of an intentional choice to return value to members through better rates, lower fees, or added services. The point isn't to chase a number. It's to make sure performance matches the mission and the strategic plan.
The big takeaway is this: understanding financial statements isn't about turning board members or executives into accountants. It's about learning to ask sharper questions, spotting trends early, and ensuring the credit union's performance aligns with both safety and purpose. Thank you to Michael Richards, CPA, for sharing decades of practical insight with the NCOFCU community. And for every board member and executive listening, continuing to build this financial fluency doesn't just strengthen the institution, it strengthens the members and communities you serve.
For more education on this subject, visit the First Responder Credit Union Academy at www.ncofcu.org.
Have a great day, subscribe and or pass on if you found this podcast beneficial.
Be safe and keep on moving forward.